The invention of the shipping container dramatically improved the economics of global trade. One standard unit replaced a variety of cargo carrying methods and enabled more goods to move quickly and efficiently from truck to train to ship. Transport became easier, supply chain costs plummeted, and global commerce took off. Today, global trade is slowed down by the complexity of communication. There are more than 200 documents involved in every single container shipment. PhD researcher Thomas Emil Jensen sets out to investigate the paper trail of a container, focusing on trade from East Africa to Europe, collecting all the required documents along the way.
We would have the process move and be finalized before the container arrives in port. But that's not what is happening today.
Finally, we get to meet. How was your flight?
The system is not well developed. You look for this and that whenever there is a problem, case by case. But it would be better if we had the system that you know when the shipment was done and where, and whether inspection has been done.
Thomas is meeting with the people involved in the first step of the shipping process. It all starts at a flower farm in Nairobi. Masai Flowers is doing test shipments to Europe in refrigerated containers.
Flowers mean livelihood for me because I eat, drink flowers. I would want to know exactly where my flowers are at any time of the day and at what conditions.
Trademark's philosophy is growing prosperity in the region through trade. So there'll be more business, there'll be more growth in the economy, more jobs created. So looking at avenues on how we can scale up the level of trade. There's a huge cost attached to information. So how information is shared and how it is relayed, generated and used actually has a huge cost implication and delays to trade.
What happened in one of the last shipments is that the phytosanitary certificate, it just was lost. You need the phytosanitary certificate and with the right stamps before the container is released on the customs site. And in the end, the phytosanitary certificate was on somebody's desk underneath a bunch of paper.
At the moment, we are having sort of two parallel operations. You have the container moving from the farm, 500 kilometers to Mombasa, and we have the lane for the documentation process that is happening with different parties seated in different offices. There is all the possibility of the container arriving actually in port before the documentation process is over. As the container is waiting there, this container is not plugged on power. So actually, we are just creating fluctuation of temperatures inside the container.
I think that definitely as a means of addressing bureaucracy, reducing paper flow, reducing delays, it's definitely the way of the future. And I think even at government level, we're seeing some good initiatives. For example, we're seeing a single customs territory being formed across East African member states. We're seeing a single window system that was rolled out in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda for the purposes of harmonizing the way that information flows and reducing the level of documentation.
Thomas is now going to follow the container 500 kilometers to Mombasa.
What happens is that with all the teams that are moving from one office to another to present the documents physically, they are stuck in the traffic. If only we had a system or a platform where this kind of information that they are physically moving with through the traffic was available to all parties. These are people who would be doing more valuable work.
Before going to port, the container waits at a nearby depot.
To go through all the required documents.
I'm not sure, but I think it's over 20 different organizations that you need to pass and stamp and get a clearance from. We need quite a lot of employees running around, sending to offices, and that's not only local. We have people, running around in offices in Nairobi, try to go from office to office to office to get the documentation flow ready. No matter day, weekend. If I would have normally 5 people to do that, I need now 25 people.
You cannot tell exactly where the flowers are, and sometimes you have to wait for the receiver to tell you whether the flowers arrived on time or they are delayed. So having something that you can be able to track your product and know for sure that my flowers are in this and that place would really, really help.
All the 5 customs administration in the 5 partner states have embraced automation of their systems. They have advanced their systems to the most advanced levels. We are now trying to see how these systems can interface or talk to each other.
We have investigated a lot of time up until now in flower quality, in getting the right ship line, finding the right freight forwarder, and I think we've got all those elements in place. It's now time to make a big step on the documentation side, on the information flow.
So every time there's arriving a reefer on board, then you will check it, or is... Yes.
We are sending a report on the budget. How many containers we are loaded, how many reefers.
So what do you think about such an idea to put everything on the internet instead?
It will be much better, because really we don't know what happened with this container before.
Yeah.
What temperature was maybe malfunction, maybe something.
Yeah.
And if happened some troubles on board, we don't know history of this container.
Thomas will share his research at a workshop organised by Trademark for public authorities involved in trade.
My main finding is that there's an efficient physical infrastructure to move the roses in containers all the way, but there's missing an information infrastructure. And I found out there's more than 24 organizations involved for one single container moving. It's moving 34 days from the farm to the retail. And of those, it's waiting for 10 days. What is happening today is that the information is sent bilateral communication. It's peer-to-peer communication. I think there's modern solutions that can help with this. So could we find a way to share the information instead?
Thomas's findings illustrate a complex communication structure on both the import and export side. His suggestion is to consider a cloud-based solution, enabling all relevant parties to share documents along the supply chain.
We have to start thinking in terms of a supply chain visibility model, whereby we can actually access information from beginning to end. And basically, that's what an information pipeline is.
It's not simply about cut flowers, it's the whole shipping fraternity that we'd like to grow. And documentation is a key area.
What the industry and the supply chain players could accomplish here is not necessarily re-engineering the supply chain. Documents, the formats, the content, the number of documents is about using those documents and sharing them in a cloud-based solution to enable all relevant stakeholders to access those documents, to use those documents, and thereby alleviate bottlenecks, improve supply chain efficiency, and ultimately reduce costs and enable trade.